Operation status quo. Operation status quo. Prepare to engage. Operation status quo. Ready to engage. Operation status quo. Engaged. Engaged. Hello and welcome, people. Each and every one of you people, beautiful, good people. I love you, people. Oh, gosh. How we doing out there? I'm watching my screen here, and I'm seeing I got a little bit of red, a little bit in the red as far as my I don't know, transfer of data from my OBS to my YouTube. So hopefully I'm not stuttering and petering out over there, for lack of a better word, petering out. Hello and welcome, by the way, to Operation Status Quo, ladies and gentlemen. I am Pete Palma. That's why it was funny to say peter out. I am Pete Palma, and this, of course, is Operation Status Quo, where we observe the status quo of life. We learn to flow with the status quo of life. And then we create our own flow of quo, because that's the only way to go. So if you're new here, hello and welcome, and thank you for taking the time to do so, to be with me and all the rest of us here today on this live stream that we try to do. Like 5 days a week, and just to come out here. The whole point of what we do on Operation Status Quo is just to create a space where, we can share ideas and just talk about things and look at things from different perspectives, and we don't have to get worked up and argumentative and all that kind of stuff. I don't know. Do I do that? I should ask you guys for some feedback. Do I ever sound argumentative and angry? Maybe sometimes when I talk about all the nonsense that's going on and how we're lied to all the time by the powers that be out there. Before I get into it, before I get into it, let me just say, because it is an interesting contrast and dynamic from, I think, two separate lines of thought in a way. There's the first line of thought where, of course, at the ultimate goal, or the ultimate center point of everything is that, we're all basically one energy, right? So everything that happens in this world is not good or bad, right or wrong. It's all just, energies floating about, creating circumstances, because we're all souls on a journey here to learn. So, there's that kind of aspect of it that always keeps me in the space of why I say not to take life so seriously and not to get, crazy about things, and, not to attach too much to what we think should be or what we think is or whatever. But then there's the other line of thought, right, of the actual fact that we are humans in this, embodied here in this life. And when you see what's going on in the world, sometimes that can be aggravating. Like, I have my own beliefs and all that kind of thing, and I definitely feel that there are, whatever you want to say, leaders, entities, powers that be, however you want to, groups of families, I don't know, aliens, whatever you want to say. But there are definitely things going on that are orchestrated to keep us, slaves, essentially, in this system that we're in. And what's funny, well, not say funny, because it's not funny, but, but still, that even with that thought, right, this is how it gets crazy in my brain, because even with that knowledge, part of that is definitely true. We are, slaves of a system that is designed to keep us down. But at the same time, that energy that creates that, and that part of our existence, is also part of the other side, part of the dream, part of the plan, for the overall growth of humanity and the learning that needs to take place. So, I mean, it might seem egregious at times, and we might not understand, but that's why I feel it's important not to get angry about it. Yeah, we can recognize it, and we could say, I look at it this way. It's like if you're driving down the road, right, and you know that the road is, flooded out. So, are you going to try to drive through the flood and get stuck in the car, or maybe drown, or are you going to turn around, and go the other way? So, I mean, I kind of look at it like that, as far as okay, all this is going on in the world, this negative and this quote unquote evil, in a sense, and are we going to drive into the puddle of muck and and just die in it, or try to survive it, or are we going to flip the car around and take human consciousness to another level and go a different direction, so that we can thrive and live good lives? And that's the whole reason why I say here about observing the status quo of life, because we want to pay attention and know what's going on in the world. And of course we want to flow with the quo in the sense of, like, we're not trying to fight against anything, but we create our own flow from there, which is like, turning the car around and going a different way instead of just, driving off the cliff because that's what everybody else is doing. So that's how much power we have. And that leads into, what I'm speaking on today, which is today is the 24th of August in the good year 2023. Hello and welcome once again. I'm so glad you're here. If you haven't done so already, take a moment to like, subscribe, and share. It really helps out the channel, and I appreciate it so much. And today's program is entitled My Entity, My Choice, because, obviously all the stuff out there, my body, my choice, which is true, for individuals, but I take it a step higher, and let's say my entity, my choice, because we have to realize that we are more than just these embodied figures that we think we are, right? There's a much deeper component to our existence than just the physical presence of who we are. So when I say my entity, my choice, this kind of comes off earlier in the week. I did a program talking about just ways to find happiness in your everyday life, some tips about finding happiness. And one of the tips in there was about making choices, and it kind of stuck with me of like how powerful. I mean, it sounds like simple, right? Of course, I just make a choice. I can choose this or I can choose that. You don't think of it so deeply, but the choices that we make every day in each moment, just a simple choice. Some choices from like just what we're thinking. Choices how we choose to react to situations that happen. It's all our choice, right? So, and the power in the idea of how much, power you have making choices, what you feel, resonates with you in your life helps the collective. It helps, even like the situations that we're seeing in the world today, it's like, you have a choice. We all have choices to either, feed more energy into that negativity that's being put out to try to keep people in fear, all that propaganda and such, or, you have a choice to, vibrate higher. And of course, I say this all the time. I think it's important to pay attention to what's going on, be aware of the surroundings, and even more importantly, I would say, with these choices is to remember that we have to, discern rather, what we're seeing. We can't just take everything at face value, whatever the news says, this is the story today, or this is what's going on, or this is how this happened, or that's how, like even that what's his name, Prigozhin or whatever in Russia, from the Wagner, however they say it, group over there in Russia, his plane went down and he's dead and everything. Is he really dead though? This is the kind of stuff I'm talking about. Like, and it's not to be like over the top conspiracy or anything, but I'm saying this is what they show us on TV. This is the story they tell us. So, but we don't really know what's going on. And if they're trying to keep people in a certain way of thought, or, whatever the plan is down the line of what the next steps are, because everything's like psychology and like just a big game of chess, right? So, if they, that's just what is the purpose of that story? I'm not saying whether it really happened or didn't happen. What I'm trying to say is when all these types of things happen, I don't think we should ever take any of it, especially when it comes through, mainstream news, at face value. I definitely feel we should say, okay, like when I see something like that right off the bat, I'm like, that's pretty interesting. You know what I mean? Like, so like, is this guy really dead, or what's the story behind this really? And I'm not necessarily going to dig into it to find out what the story is. All I know is that I never put any kind of credence into what's being told at face value, which is very, and I've been using this word a lot through the week. Liberating. It is quite liberating to give yourself that space to give yourself that space and not get wrapped up in what they're saying. So my entity, my choice, we're all, that is like what freedom really is. This word freedom, and everybody looking for freedom, and what's freedom? And I've talked about what is freedom before and everything, but freedom really is the power to make choices, and not just power to make choices within a system that's designed. Real choices outside of that system as well, right? Like we're all, kind of pigeonholed into this little paradigm that we're in all the time, and we think we're making choices like, oh, I'm going to choose what college I'm going to go to, or I'm going to choose which job offer I take, or I'm going to choose which which house I buy, and we all think that we're free and doing everything we want, but we're not really in a way, because we're doing everything within the confines of the system that's set up to keep us down. So it doesn't matter whether you choose this job or that college or that college. And you go, whatever college you go to, they're going to teach you the same indoctrination shit, whatever job you get, it's still the corporate or government, wherever you're working for, structure that's going to keep you, wrapped in a certain way. Whatever house you buy, you still got to pay taxes and homeowners insurance and all the crap that they do to make it difficult for people. So, I don't know. I really would like to get the concept across today of the empowerment of making choices, and even the realization that you have power to make choices. Like, sometimes I think the hardest part of it is, because we're all in this system, and, we're, humans that are just, with this survival instinct. Obviously, you don't want to put yourself outside the system, right? Because then you start thinking, that's when people always say, well, I guess you're going to go live in a cabin in the woods, and okay, well, I don't know. I'm not saying I would or wouldn't. Maybe I would. Would it be so bad to have like a nice cabin with fresh, clean water coming from the stream? I don't know if any water's clean in this country anymore, or any country, but if it was, whatever you pick, grow food off the land, and just imagine, like, a world where, again, I'm kind of intertwining, freedom and choices, kind of together. But just like, imagine a world where you don't have to go to the grocery store. Like, food just is growing, and you just you get food. It's like, when did I go to the store and I bought like 2 produce items. It was like almost $10. It wasn't even that much. It was like a thing of broccoli and I don't know, whatever else I bought. And I think to myself, I'm like, I can't believe how much they charge for this crap. Like a little bag of lettuce or something. Like, what do they? This is stuff you could just grow all over the place, and everybody can just be eating it. Like, so that's first and foremost, that we have to realize that a system has been created to keep us, enslaved and trapped and weak and, dumb. I hate to say it that way, but we are, in a sense, as far as dumb in a way of not really realizing how much potential we have, and who we really are at a core level beyond the physical that we put so much emphasis on. So and so when you make your choices, and a choice too is saying making choices, my entity, my choice. I mean, you are, first and foremost, you are an entity that chose this experience that you're in. We have to start there, right? So we each of us have chosen our bodies, our surroundings, the circumstances in our lives, because that was part of the soul lesson to be here. That's why I say, when I look at all the other side, like, people like, oh, nuclear wars come in, and financial collapse and food shortages, and maybe it will happen. I don't know, but if it does happen all that way, then that was part of the design of the plan to get humanity to move in a different direction, and to learn and grow, because everything is just a lesson, essentially. And quite honestly, and I don't want to blame individuals, because it is the programming, right? And human nature is to kind of just flow, I guess, or go with the flow, instead of kind of bucking the system. Although I'm quite different than that. I like to buck the system. I find it very enjoyable. But for those that like to just stay quiet and comply, like, it takes a lot of deprogramming for people to get over these humps and look at things in a different way, especially everything with, like, the woke agenda and the movement, and, like, all these different, especially with the younger generations that have been kind of polluted with technology and the phones and social media and such. And it's just this, they just keep dishing out this story, through the celebrities, through the politicians, through the news, through, whatever, Hollywood. They just keep, dishing it all out. And that becomes like, oh, well, this is the norm. And this is, and they create, what's really interesting about it to me, as far as the dynamic of psychology, is, how they create, they take the knowledge of that, people want to feel empowered and make choices and free and all that type of thing. And they use all this, equality and everything else, the way, of course, equality, to me, without question, everyone's equal. It really doesn't matter. your socioeconomic status, your gender, your race. I mean, it really doesn't matter. None of that matters. We're all equal no matter what. And, but they take that want, and then they kind of invert it, right, by creating all these movements and groups and confusing people. Like even, again, I'm not against anything as far as what people want to do as far as, deciding their gender or anything. But, I feel that they take that issue and, confuse people as to, what they really want or what it means. And, then they create a whole movement around it as far as, we're going to, we have to, march down the street and fight for our rights for this, that, or the other. And, I just think it's a detriment to people. Obviously, it's a detriment. Look at what's going on in society. All these groups are fighting over crap. And I think 9 out of 10 people really don't give a shit. Like, they don't give a shit what you want to do. Like, nobody really cares, and like, so you don't need to go down the street, like pounding your chest saying that, we should have more equality for this or whatever. This law is no good, or I just think it's done on purpose because the laws and the societal standards that are set, or and like I said this yesterday, I guess, like if anything if it was something was really that dire, like you just come out and you just be open and honest with people. Instead, everything's like a movement and a big speech and a this or that, and nobody does anything, And it's so, and you see everybody, all the discord and the fighting, and so it just doesn't make any sense to me. So that's why I want to really get across like the idea of like the power of choice, and not only just the power of choice, for the other stuff I'm saying, but knowing that you have a choice, and the choice that you don't have to live within the confines of what they're trying to push as agendas on day-to-day population, right? Like, we're all trying to get by and live life. So I'm a big believer. I don't know how it's going to play out. I really, really don't. I just think, I believe in my heart that things are going to really, something's going to happen kind of, and it's going to be like a swoop, and, we're going to be going in a different direction. If you take people from 100 years ago and put them in the world today, their whole mindset and structure and way of being and whatever, it's totally different, right? So it's the same thing. Like, everything's always progressing. And I always look at everything in a positive. I really do. Even even the most negative stuff that's happening in the world today, I look at it as these are all just indications of what's, I say indications. Well, they are indications, but I mean they're more like lessons, or they're put out there on purpose. Everything's so absurd in the world right now. Like, how can you even believe or take any of it seriously, right? So it's like, and I think it's done on purpose, because I do think everything is a higher plan, and ultimately the strongest force in life, in existence, is love. And, we all come from, I know this sounds a little fluffy, but, we all come from one source, whether you call it God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, but we're all from, one source. And that one source is like ultimate love, right? So I know it sounds crazy because, you see what's going on in the world, but, sometimes it's like anything else. If you have a kid, you got to punish them or do something, and the kid will think, oh, you hate me because you make me stay in my room all day. And it's just like, well, I don't hate you. I love you. And I'm, I got to get you to realize so you can, your brain pattern can change and go in a different direction. And I think that's what's happening with humanity. I mean, as far as on the grand scheme of things, as far as consciousness goes and such, us as humans, we're pretty far down. In the pecking order, so we need to be coerced a little bit, and again, I would say, the powers that be that know this information, that use it to, against us, we can say that it looks like it's against us, but the truth is, like, that energy, even though it's negative energy, or we would call it negative energy or lower vibration or whatever, it's still part of the whole, because ultimately there is no separation. So even like, the source, God, whatever, the universe itself, creates that balance, right, and creates the other side, and then puts it out there, in the way so that it's a catalyst to, help humanity grow. And honestly, it's a beautiful time to be alive. I mean, especially for me at my age, being more in the middle of my life, I experienced all those years of how things were, and now we're in this like tumultuous transition period, and then we're going to move forward. And I feel like, wow, I could take everything I've learned and everything I've observed through everything I've learned prior to the fake pandemic, and then everything during because really the pandemic was just like the flick of the match to start the fire, and it came out that way as far as a pandemic. But look what's transpired since that, it's not like the pandemic came and went and we just went back to normal life. I mean, it's gotten, one thing has led to the next and led to the next, have been crazier and crazier, because it was almost like, the pandemic was like the starting gate again when the horses race. You hear the bell and then the gate comes up and they all come shooting out. So, I mean, that's basically what happened. COVID was like the gate came up and now all the horses of truth are running around the track, and each one is showing one horse is running, showing the cracks in the financial system. The other one's running, showing the corruption and the politics. The other one's, running, showing everything, so each one's showing something, right? And, yeah, I just think I think it's amazing and it's beautiful, and I know it seems like difficult, but the truth is, and like what I'm talking about here today is just the fact that the power you have to choose, right? To choose how you feel about things, to choose how you observe things, to choose what information you take in, even to choose how much you want to comply. And I don't want to get like a like a rah, but I'm big on you don't have to comply. That's why I didn't comply with the mask. And I was always getting crazy looks and in trouble or whatever, but I really don't care, because it's like, that's what I'm talking about. Like, that's how important, like, my personal sovereignty as an expression of divinity is to me, that if something resonates with my heart and I'm not going that route, because I knew that kind of thing was just total, suppression and just trying to, it's basically like slavery and here, cover yourself, cover your face and hide yourself in fear, cower in the corner, you're really going to tell me, even if, the pandemic was the way they tried to make it out to be, you're really going to tell me this goofy little thing on your face is going to make a difference. It's just so ridiculous. I always talk about it all the time. You would go to school or you go to work and, somebody's sick and, half the office is out or half the class is out because of that bug that's going around. It was the same. COVID was the same thing. It was a bug going around, which they probably did on purpose, but I'm not going down all that road right now. But it's a bug that was out there, and they gave it a name, made a media campaign out of it, and, and put everybody in fear. But again, it's again, I'm going back on those two roads I was saying, because some bad people were trying to do all that, blah, 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 but it's also part of the plan, because humanity has to rise, and it's not going to rise without something happening to, get people to think for it to rise. And, we have to take one other thing I'd like to say in regard to that is, there is never loss. Life, there is no loss of life. I know we transition out of these entities, these physical bodies, but at the same time, energy is forever. There's no beginning, there's no end. It just is, and it exists timelessly. So, whatever, there's no loss, and I think I probably said this yesterday too. I'm always saying this yesterday, but but anyway, there is no loss. There's just your form goes from one thing to the next. So, I don't know, and I'm big on the not complying. I've been hearing, I'm not sure how much, I don't really pay attention a lot, how I am with the news, but I have heard recently that there's more potential for another variant that's coming around, and they're encouraging people to get their booster shots and possibly, wear masks again and such. And I'm telling you, people, I don't think it would be the same if they tried to lock people down again. I don't think it would happen, because I just don't think people would accept it after the way things went last time. But it's important to not be afraid. I'm not saying to be like a rabble rouser and, to be disrespectful in any way, but ultimately, don't comply. That's all you got to do is not comply. If everybody walked into the store without, back then, that's what I used to say. If everybody just walked into the store without a mask on, what are they going to do? They're going to shut the store down, and not let anybody shop. How can they possibly control a whole population that says we're not going to do it? So, and they don't want us to realize we have that much power, and that's how important it is to have that. Oh, yeah, the other thing I wanted to say too is about the same thing. When you're making your choices and you're sticking with your higher vibration, we don't have to fight against everything or change everything ourselves. Honestly, just the idea of being in that higher vibrational energy is contagious, and it adds to the collective. So the more that we can just, have our space and vibrate higher in those levels, it's going to change the outside world either way. It's almost like, when the sun keeps shining on something, the paint starts to fade, right? Because the sun just keeps shining on, so the color fades, and the color fades over time. So it's the same type of thing. If everybody's vibrating vibrating up here, whatever's vibrating here is just going to fade and fade and fade because everybody's here. And, this can't be because there's nothing feeding into it. So I don't know. I mean, that's kind of what I was thinking today. And I think it's, I think it's important to really kind of hone in on that as far as knowing how much power you have with choices you can make and how important it is to realize you have the power to make choices and how important it is to be responsible for that for yourself and to, actually be mindful and make those choices and to be discerning of the information you're taking in. We're responsible for it all. And, whatever, even if you want to look at it in the duality way and, this line and that line, like I'm saying, if there are, in the sense, these bad people trying to do bad things. I mean, the human trafficking, I mean, it goes beyond, like it goes beyond, like and the thing is, like, just this, I don't know, I know I'm going off on crazy tangent, but, just to have that level of truth up here, you have to have that other level at the bottom. I mean, there's always, in duality, there's an equal and opposite reaction, like, every action equal and opposite reaction. So you have to have something as horrific as human trafficking and, child sex abuse to not say offset, but I mean, for ultimate love and ultimate compassion, you got to go, what are the things that are ultimate evil? These people who like to torture people and like to hurt people and like to, use people. So, and that's just, unfortunately, I want to say it's unfortunate because it's beyond our understanding and it's part of the whole, but it is what it is. And that's why, those type of things are there to get people here who are just not paying attention to, to think and be engaged. We have to be engaged. So it's easy to just be born and be a body and go through the motions and just live a quote unquote life. And, we think, and we don't even know what the life is. Most people, I know a lot of people who aren't even have a spiritual connection enough to say, that they not even sure what's going to happen to them when they die. Or, I told this story before too. My one friend that said, he doesn't want to be cremated because in case he needs his body when he's in heaven, and I'm just thinking like, I mean, so anyway, but that's I'm not to pick on anybody. I'm just saying, we've all been programmed in a way, and let's liberate ourselves. We want freedom. We have to create the freedom. Otherwise we stay enslaved to a system that's trying to keep us from our true selves. So that's how important it is, the power of choice. You have that power to make those choices that you want to make. So we don't have to fight. Let's just make, let's keep it nice. Let's be nice. But do what's follow your heart, and don't be afraid to say no to things that you don't agree with. You don't want to pay your taxes? F them. Don't pay your taxes. I would encourage people to not pay their taxes because it's all illegal anyway, and they're sending all your money to crappy places. Not like they're helping people with it. Half that money's going to federal employees, right? So anyway, or Ukraine. I mean, that's where it's all going now, I guess. All right. So anyway, that's it, ladies and gentlemen. That was my thoughts today for you here today to just remind you of the power of your choice. You are the entity. You are in control. So just, speak to your higher self, resonate with your heart space, and, it'll lead you. And just don't let the outside world pressure you into doing anything you don't want to do. And don't be afraid of who comes at and tries to put you down or make you feel like you're going to get in trouble for this, that, or the other. It's all just fear mongering and tactics to keep people in line so they can have power over you. But you are the only one that really has power over you, ultimately, right? Okay. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your time here today with me on Operation Status Quo. I definitely appreciate it. Please like, subscribe, share, send this out to your family, your friends, those you love, and of course, those you despise as well. I love each and every one of you individually as well as a group. And until tomorrow, God bless you out there. Operation Status Quo, disengaged.